Hello everyone, I hope you're well. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I've literally just finished teaching. We did a class this morning, so we created these couple of cards. I thought I'd show you before I went ahead and created a card with my new release. These are the cards that we created this morning, and this shows that I still use the older releases and they work just as beautifully as the new releases. And this workshop was £10. We did it live this morning. We had a great time. And it's also available on pre-record if you wanted to do that class afterwards. So that Facebook Live video is available in the class as a pre-record, so you can listen to all the waffle as well. So that class is £10 if you wanted to join. But I had a really great time doing that with some like-minded friends, crafters. So I thought what I'd do is I'd stop by and create another card. Now, let me grab the one. So this is the card I did yesterday on YouTube. And I absolutely adore these colours. I don't think I've kept the colours out, have I? Do you know, I'm hopeless. I've kept one of the colours out because I want to use the same colours and show you how I can be inspired again. So we had mustard seed and spice marmalade. I meant to keep the colours out because I was so pleased with how they worked together. So just look at that. Don't you think that is beautiful? I just adore that. So I thought I'd create another card in a totally different way just to show how you can use the same colours and make it look different, and stamps. So I've got a piece of 4 inches by 6 inches Pink Frog smooth card, 300 GSM. And I've got my A5 acrylic block. I could use my A6 one, but I've got my A5 to hand. And I want to use this background again. It's Ace Officer 1007. Just adore this. And I want to do something different, but also show you this as a background as a whole. Not that I can do this now. So I've got a couple of pieces of 4 by 6 inch card. And I want to show you how I can make it look different. That's 4 by 6, isn't it? I've got that many pieces of card here. Honestly, it gets so confusing. So the first one I'm just going to do in my VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. So just, I know what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the piece that I cut out. Where did I put that? Oh, it's there. Oh, in front of me. So I'm going to use my black Nocturne ink and just stamp it in black on one of the backgrounds. And I'm giving that a really good inking with a nice juicy VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink pad. But it's a background, so I don't stress too much about the background being perfect. You know, it's a background and that's absolutely fine. So I've got that black ink and I can see that that's all wet because I can just tilt that and see that on there. So I'm going to place this onto my card. There we go. Just allow that just to sit on there, because I want to create sort of 2 cards at the same time. So I'm just allowing that ink to sit on there. I can use these acrylic blocks to sort of lever. Let me turn that round so you can see what I'm doing. I can sort of lever that acrylic block. It's got that flexibility and allows me to hold my hand there and flex and curl that acrylic block. And that is just, let me just lift that up, is just a beautiful background, just in its own right. But I want to show how you can add a bit of colour and just change it up a little bit. So I'm going to use that one, place that on one side, and then I want to create a background in those colours. Now, I've just used that black ink on there, so because I've literally just this second used it, I'm cleaning my stamp. You all know that I don't clean my stamps, but I'm cleaning it this time, mainly because I want to go straight to oxides, and I don't really want that black ink toning or changing the colour or vibrancy of the card. Actually, we could do 3 backgrounds, couldn't we? Yeah, oh dear. This is, again, every time I start a video, I start on a tangent. It's just, I'm terrible. So, I want to show you sort of 3 ways then. I did say 2, now it's 3. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to use my mustard seed. These were the colours that I used yesterday. And you can see I've wiped that black off there, so that I've still got that nice, vibrant sort of mustard seed colour. So I've got the mustard seed. We'll use spice marmalade, a little bit of spiced marmalade. Shall I get a little bit of lumberjack plaid as well? Lumberjack plaid. I just fancy adding a little bit of red, just to give it a little bit more power. So we'll add a little bit of red as well. There we go. And then I'm going to add seedless preserves. There we go. And you can see, because I'm doing it quite randomly, I might miss some areas. But that's the whole point of, you know, the background being quite random. So I've just added lumberjack plaid to that. Now, I'm not going to add any moisture to this. So we'll just stamp this as is. Stamp that as is. So no water's been added at all. We're just using it like you would a regular ink pad. But you have to remember, obviously, these are reactive to water. And again, in exactly the same way as I did with the VersaFine Clair, just allowing that ink just to absorb into there. Just leave that acrylic block, just so that I can get a really good image. Now, you saw that when I added the ink, I added it randomly, but isn't that beautiful? Isn't that just a gorgeous background? So we could have that as a background. Obviously, I'm not going to create 4 cards now because it, you know, there just isn't enough time. But what I'm going to do now, there's a little bit of ink left on there. So let's just give that a spritz with water. Sort of 2 and a bit spritzies. So spritz that with water, because that should give us another background. These were not the backgrounds I was going to do, but hey ho. But now you've got sort of a 2nd generation print of that works just beautifully. So let's, I don't know why I went off on a tangent, but that's 2 backgrounds. But I want to do the background I was going to do. So I'm just going to just wipe over this, because I've got that moisture on there. I've got those oxides on there, and anything I add on the top is going to react with those oxides. So again, just giving that a little bit of a wipe. And I think we'll just grab a piece of copy paper, just so that we can sort of mop up the extra moisture just on that stamp, so that we don't use kitchen roll. Let's move that out of the way. Right. So what I'm going to do now, oh, it's like reaching for everything all the time. I'll tell you why I'm reaching for everything. It's because I did a workshop this morning, and I've just tidied everything away. So I've just tidied everything away to get it back out again. You can't make it up, can you, really? Which is just me all over. Pull something out, put it back, and pull it out again. Honestly. And I've got fingerprints everywhere. Right, there we go. So I've got my heat tool ready. Let's get that plugged in. That's it. Now with the other card that we did yesterday, I showed you how to add this randomly. So it wasn't added just as a whole, it was just added randomly to the background. So let's use it as a whole in the same way as we did that. So just use my Versamark ink, which as you can see is really clean. And what I'm doing is I'm making sure that I give it a really good layer of ink. So just applying that, adding a really good layer of that ink. The new release, my new release is now available on the All and Create website. I will add my affiliate link to the description, should you wish to go there. And I'm just going to add the Versamark, there we go. And again, exactly like I did with the VersaFine Clair and the Versamark, I'm going to allow that ink just to absorb into the card. There's no point me lifting it up too quickly because it just won't do what we need it to do. We need it to sort of absorb into that card. I'm going to lever that acrylic block like I would any other time. And voila, you can't see anything. Now, it doesn't matter if I've missed bits. It really isn't a problem. I love when you do it in clear and you're like, well, have you done anything, Tracy? I can't see anything. Now, if you've used the card, you know, you've taken it somewhere with you, it's been handled loads of times, then use an anti-static bag just to make sure that your embossing powder only sticks to the stamped image that you've stamped. Now you can see it, can't you? Yay, look at all that. Look at that detail. Now I've distressed these leaves, so some of them are distressed. Let's just tip the pot up. So I'll just put this onto my copy of paper so that I can put that back in the pot. Waste not, want not. Can't waste that product. There we go. I even pulled my anti-static bag out ready, but didn't use it. So what I'm going to do is just heat my heat tool up. Just heat that heat tool up. It just takes a while just to get going. And what I'm going to do is just lift that card, just so I can see the embossing go. I just heat the heat tool up because then you're just hopefully spending a little less time just holding it against the card and it's doing nothing. It does take a while for it to just start to turn. I think it's just going there now. Just make sure you move that card and your heat tool as it starts to turn. And if I just tilt it slightly, I can see, she says, where it's going. It's funny because if you don't get it quite in the right light, you can't actually see it turning. Sort of miss a bit every time on there. And all it means is that if you miss a bit and it's not glossy, well, the ink is just going to move that powder because it's just dry powder sitting on the surface. But it is quite difficult to see it in this light. Again, I still keep missing little bits. Bit missing there. You can, the good thing about when you do melt it, you can see exactly where you've missed. Set, you can see straight away where you've missed that. So that's a good thing. Now you don't want to go straight onto here with your ink pads, because you don't want that warmth going then onto your ink pad. Right. We're going to grab, same as we did before, one for the orange. I have got one for the orange. Of course, I'm not going to find the yellow. No, that's the yellow. That's the orange. That's the yellow. And we've got one. Did we have one for the purple? That'll do for the purple. So I've got my blending tools. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab the kitchen roll I was using before, just so I can lean my hands on there and I don't put my, you know, any moisture back onto the card, because the oxides are reactive to any moisture. So I'm using the mustard seed as I did yesterday, and I'm just going to blend that colour just over my card, and it blends beautifully. I'm then going to add the spiced marmalade. Just blend the spiced marmalade. And just look at that background, doesn't it look wonderful? I'm then going to use the mustard seed again and just blend the mustard seed, just so that the two colours are blended. I'm going to turn this around. Now what I'm going to do is just wipe this area, because I don't want to pick up that yellow and sort of contaminate the other area that I'm colouring. So then I'm going to use the seedless preserves and then blend the seedless preserves. And you can see I'm sort of adding layers of that colour. I'll then turn it back around again. Let's just wipe up. You could mop that colour up with another piece of card, just so that you don't waste that background. And what I'm going to do is grab the orange, and let's just make sure that we've got no edges there. So it's sort of adding depth of colour. Depth of that colour. That's lovely, that's fine. Just add these now. And then I'm just, like I did yesterday, let's put the lids on those, just so that we keep everything nice and tidy. Move those out of the way. And then I'm going to spritz my kitchen roll with water, like I did yesterday, and just wipe over that. So there's the embossing resists the ink. I'm not drowning the card with moisture, but it resists the ink. Let's turn that over and get a clean area. And then, now you always want a clean area, because if you go back with the same area of your kitchen roll, all you're doing is applying that ink back on again. So then you've got a lovely background. And if you want, you can add a few little spritzes of water, so it just reacts a little bit further. We'll leave that on there just so that it does its thing. We'll just leave it on one side. One side, am I kidding? Now, do you remember this background that we created here? Right. What I've done, so this is 4 by 6 inches, this piece of card. And what I've done is I've got another piece of card that's 4 by 6 inches. And if you wanted, you could actually place that on the top. Looks nice just like that, doesn't it? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these colours again, turn them round. So the same colours I used before. So I'm going to use mustard seed. Use the mustard seed. And just blend that colour. Now obviously I'm not going over embossing this time, I'm going over the black image. Now it's important, let me show you. I haven't done it, but it's important just to give that a little waft with your heat gun, because you don't want that, you don't want the colour, the black colour, to be picked up on your cut and dry foam. So there's my mustard seed. Then let's go to the spiced marmalade. So we'll add the spiced marmalade. Lovely rich colours. My cut and dry foam, because this is an old piece, is just breaking down, that's all. So I'm going to go back to the mustard seed and just blend the mustard seed. So I'm sort of blending the two colours together, but I'm building the depth of that colour. So then we'll turn that round, and then we'll go to the seedless preserves and add the seedless preserves. Just go over our colour, and again what you're doing is you're adding layers of that colour, and you're going to try not to sort of crease your circle like I'm doing. And I'm going to go back and just add a little bit more depth of that yellow, and then a little bit more depth of that orange. There we go. So let's put the lids on those. The lid on that. And then I can just take a little bit of water and just add a little bit of water, because the oxides are reactive to moisture. So if I just lift that up, what I've got now is a spotlight. So I've got a spotlight of colour, but also I've got this that I could also use on another background that I stamp with black. So let me just show you what I mean. So it's a little bit of a playtime here that we're having. So let's grab the stamp. What's she done with the stamp? Oh, I'm dangerous. It's because it's see-through. Right. Is it that way? Tracy can't tell. Don't know which way is the right way now. Is it that way? So I'm going to now ink with my black again. So I've got all these pieces of card are the 4x6, so all of them are that size. And I'm just giving that a really good inking. Okay. So this is my time to just spend with you on my YouTube channel. So I've now got that black ink, and I've still got it upside down. Sure I have. Right, let's just, wouldn't matter anyway, would it? Because I could just turn the card round. So just allow that ink again to sit on there. So whilst I'm doing this, both cards that I've spritzed with water have all got time to just react. So just giving that time to just absorb into the card. Again, I can lift that acrylic block turn it round so you can see what I'm doing. Lift the acrylic block again and just curl. Just a beautiful, beautiful background. So now I've got this card, I can place this on the top of here. So I can place this on the top of here to create another background. And I like the fact I haven't got all the colour, but what I want to do, where's the purple? So with the purple, let's just blend it out a little bit more so it's a little bit softer. And let's just add a little bit more moisture just so that it blends. There we go, so a little bit more moisture to that, and just so it blends here. So again, I'm going to let that do its thing. We don't want to sort of faff around with it, so just leave it on one side. I've got so many one sides. So let's just clean this up, and then we just need a dry piece of kitchen roll, which that definitely isn't because I've used that much moisture. So just dab that dry, and you can see it's got a few delicate sort of bleached out areas, but what a stunning background. I absolutely love that. So do you remember this circle that I cut out of, I can't even lift that card up now, it's so wet. So this circle that I cut out of this card, you're going to want to know the size, aren't you? Now, you don't have to have dies. Let me get the measurement. You don't have to have dies because you can use a little jam jar and draw around a jam jar and just pierce the centre and then cut it out. So you don't have to have a die. This one is 3 1/4 inches across. So I can use this as well on here. So let's take our background stamp again, and I'm just going to ink the sort of enough of an area just to stamp on here, just to stamp on the circle. Now let's grab another piece of copy paper, because then I won't go onto my non-stick craft sheet and have to clean that up. And that's see-through, so I can see exactly where I'm aiming. We just add some of these to this background. So this is how I end up going off on tangents. So allowing that ink just to absorb in there. I always end up going off on tangents, it's just what I do. You can rub the back of your card if you wish, and let's just pick that up. There we go. Now, just because something is A6 doesn't mean it has to be used as A6. It's got a beautiful background on there as a contrast. Let's just blot that a little bit. And the only reason I'm blotting is that if I start faffing with it, it means that I've removed a little bit of a layer of ink and it's not going to smudge. So this will then go on here, like so, which gives me the same background brought into the foreground, but with a contrast. So it works beautifully. And also I've got this one where I use the circle, but it's on the left-hand side, and this was on the right-hand side, slightly down here, just to give me a different look. So what I'm going to do is grab some adhesive, which I never do. Now I'm going to, these are being used as cards. It could quite easily be a journal page, just creating these backgrounds and then adding your focal imagery. But I'm going to use them as cards, and I like to have some dimension. But this is why you blot the ink as well, or if you want to, give it a dry, because if you're going to touch the ink, you need to make sure that it's not got that lots of moisture, because that's the whole point of VersaFine Clair. They stay wetter longer, so you don't want to smudge those. So I've now got sort of the start of a focal image and the start of another one, like yin and yang. It's like the opposite, isn't it? So it works rather nicely. Just beautiful. So let's just... Now I want to make sure that I've got some white splatters on there and that they stay white. I always forget where I've put this. Where have I put this? I thought I'd put it in it. You know when you forget where you've put something? Let me turn my little wheel. There we go. I've got it in here. Now, if I used my anti-static bag over this, I should be able to, because it'll just sort of create a barrier between that and my Posca pen. My Posca pen should stay white, because I can polish it off once it's dried. Let me just see if that will... So this is my anti-static bag. Let's see if this doesn't change colour. So that's just adding some splatters to there. So we'll see if that changes colour. Because what happens is you've got the moisture in your Posca pen. The moisture in the Posca pen picks up the colour of the ink that's in the background. So you can just see. We'll leave that as it is. I've also got this bleed proof Dr. P.H. Martin's that I can use. And it says what it is. It's bleed proof, so therefore it should stay white. Now you can put this into a little dish if you wish. Add it to a dish and then you can reactivate it. I'm not going to do that. Mainly because this will last me about 50 years anyway. And I don't really need to. Let's just put that back for once. So you can add this to a little dish and you can reactivate it. So you can do that if you wish. So I'm just going to add a little bit of water. It's not a good idea always putting things back because I end up then searching for them. Now you need to add enough moisture so that obviously it's fluid enough. And then I can just add little splatters. You can start off here so that your splatters are smaller. Now, these are different splatters than you get with your Posca pen because I'm using a little paintbrush that is finer. But the idea is that this is bleed proof and it stays white. And it goes everywhere. So what I'm going to do is, you can see the Posca pen on there. It's taken on a bit of the colour, hasn't it, even with the anti-static bag. So if I just place this on the top, this should stay white. Right, let's just clean that up. I don't get the Posca pen everywhere, but I do get this everywhere. Now, with this, with the bleed proof, you just need to, I mean, look at the, you know, how strong that is. You need to make sure that you really do sort of clean that brush. I've got so much stuff everywhere. Again, I've only just done a class and I had stuff everywhere. So just give that brush, it's worth doing it and before you put it back because of the actual concentration that is in there. So this, there we go, we've got the white on there and we've got the colour and the white splatters on here as well. So let's move this over to the side and let's grab one of the other stamp sets. So I'm going to grab this stamp set, which is the Leafle. And you can tell I'm not putting anything back, just for a change. Nothing new there then. So take this leaf and then, like yesterday, I'm going to, what are you going to do? Yes, I'm going to, I'm going to ink the stamp. I was looking for a scrap of card, that's what I was looking for. So I'm going to ink the stamp with the mustard seed. I'm then going to take some spiced marmalade and then Let's add a little bit of seedless preserves, just so we've got all the colours that are in the background. And if you're ever not happy with something, it doesn't matter, you can stamp it again. And then if you're happy with the stamped image, you can then spritz it with water again and create a second background. Beautiful, just beautiful. There's just something about that leaf I adore. And I'm going to get up again for a pair of scissors. And what I'll do is I'll put these sort of blending tools out of the way, because what I end up with is little touches of ink sort of everywhere. Right, so I'm going to cut that leaf out. And if there's colour left on my stamp, I can spritz with water and get a second generation print exactly like I did yesterday. Can't see where I'm going. Just cut that out. Again, just leaving that white border. But it's nice to show how you can change things up a little bit, how versatile something is. Sometimes when a release comes out, I get it. You know, not every release is going to appeal to everybody. But sometimes I think some stamps, the more you use them, you understand them, you get them. And the more you use them, the more you fall in love with them. And this release, I've never done so many samples ever as I've done this time with the leaves, or as many videos, to be honest. I've done so many videos. It just inspired me to just, you know, have a go and keep creating, because I've just enjoyed it so much. I could actually probably sit here for 2 hours creating quite easily with these backgrounds. So I've got I can just pinch the leaves a little bit just so that it looks different and it's got a little bit more detail. But you don't have to overwork it, it just looks beautiful. Even with just that leaf, it just looks so nice. So I'm then going to add, I could add 2 leaves if I want, but I don't need to on this because I've got that contrast of that black. So just add the leaf there. And we can decide on our additions afterwards. Let's decide on them afterwards. Let's just keep adding little bits at the moment as we go along. So we've got these cards here. I just love them. I absolutely love them. It just makes me happy. And we've got this one here. So I need my Inktense pencil. So I've got my grey Inktense pencil. No idea where my water brush is because I've got so much on my desk. So I've actually tidied up and now I'm just remessing it again. I mean, but I have to tidy up because my head gets cluttered. It doesn't take much for my head to get cluttered, but it does get cluttered. So this here is permanent. This isn't. But I'm just going to add a little bit of shading. There we go. And I'm just going to add a little bit of moisture just to my brush. And I'm just going to activate that. Just to blend that out. just to give me a little bit of shading just underneath. You know, I was just going to ask you then where my pencil is. Be careful when you're going into the pencil and you're picking up a little bit more colour, because you really shouldn't do that, because you don't want the moisture to go up into the pencil. So many stamps, so little space. I'm going to have to put that one back because I'm going to end up with everything everywhere. So we'll just place that one back. Again, I can also use one of these smaller leaves here, but we'll just get the focal imagery, you know, sort of a start. Let's just place that one back. And then I'm going to use, let's have a look at this one. So this is Pointy Leaves, and this is an A6 stamp set. So you could do exactly the same as I've done here with this background in white with this one, because this is lovely as well. So let's stamp this. I don't think I even need an acrylic block. I do need a piece of white card. Trying to keep everything in the picture for you is not easy. So let's move that up there. Let's take these colours again and just add a little bit of the yellow, a little bit of the orange. So mustard seeds, spiced marmalade. Shall we add a little bit of lumberjack plaid to this one? So a little bit of red to this one. And then we want the seedless preserves. So let's go back with a little bit of red on those, just so. And we'll just stamp that. I'm not using an acrylic block. I'm just going to stamp this as is. You can see why I get through so many scraps of card. And I've not spritzed this with water, so I've just used them. Just stunning. Just use them as they are. Now let's spritz this with water. So we'll spritz this with water. Let's remove this out of the way so we don't spritz the whole project. So I've just spritzed this with water just to see if there is a second generation print. And there is a second generation print. Isn't that lovely? So you've got your first generation and your second generation print. So let's take this and we'll just cut this leaf out. Again, I'm going to leave a little bit of a white edge just to give that little pop. Again, nice and easy to cut out. It's not difficult to cut out at all. And I didn't have any of this prepped because, as I said, I've been teaching this morning. But I'm so inspired by this release that I had to just keep creating. And you can add the colours to the background as well if you don't want to see the white card. So I've got lovely sort of colours that I can add. Let me bring in, this is the background that we did before. So it goes beautifully with that because I can add a black. I haven't got enough card blanks for all these. So it just works beautifully. So I'm just going to, this will go to this. I need about 20 more card blanks. So this will go here because I haven't added the red here. So I'm going to do one. So that can go on that one. I've got the second generation here. So we're going to use the second generation as well. So just showing you how I create and how inspiration strikes. So I've got the second generation here. And the second generation is lovely as well. So as you can see, I've got all these backgrounds that I'm wanting to create with. And it just works so nicely. Let's just take that one. Loads of scraps of card. So let's just bring these in that we did. So you saw me create the first generation. Just put these all on the floor because... So you saw me create the first generation and the second generation. So this was the without water, that was spritzed with water. This leaf was without spritzing with water, and this leaf was the second generation. So the second generation can be added to the second generation, like so. We can add some black cotton as well, so we'll do that shortly. So let's bring this in, and we want that stamp again. So let's take that stamp again, and let's use the colours that we've got in the background. So we won't add the red, we'll use exactly the colours we've got in the background here. So we've got the yellow, which is the mustard seed. We've then got the orange. And then we've got the seedless preserves. And we've got the seedless preserves on there. So we will not spritz with water. We'll just use it as is without an acrylic block. Crikey, where does the time go when you're creating? I really should get onto deadlines. I've got deadlines coming out of my ears. Stunning. Let's just grab a little white because I've got more ink literally on my fingers than I have on the cardstock. Just gorgeous. Let's spritz with water now with any ink that is left on there. So 2 spritzes with water. With anything that's left on there. Again, just gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. So we shall cut this one out. Now you do have to be careful when you're mixing, you know, the purples with your oranges and yellows, because you don't want to create mud. That's why you need to be a little bit cautious. So I'm creating the focal images for these cards. Now I love a layered look. It's the way I craft. I also like pared back as well, wherever the mood takes me. And every day is different. And some days I might not be inspired at all. There we go. Let's just grab another piece of card. So let's just give these a little bit of life. So I'm going to add this here, just so. I've got that one I can add to another background, which I'll sort in a minute. I need another piece of card. And I'm going to take this leaf again. I need to take that one. And I just want to stamp that in mainly the seedless preserves. I should have added the yellow first, but I'll just add a little sort of touch of yellow. You should do it the other way around. Let's add that there. Lovely. We just cut this leaf out, and what you can see is I'm building up focal imagery for sort of each card, and just building it up each time, just to create the cards. To be honest, I planned to create one card, but this is me. I go off on a complete tangent. It's just the way I create. Something always leads me to go in a different way. And you can see I've not really sort of stuck anything down. Couldn't get my words out then. I've not stuck anything down apart from that first card that I started to create. None of the others are stuck down yet. Okay. So just cut those out. So I can use sort of leaves together, like on this one, I can use those two together. Can I use those together? What did I do with that one? Just making sure that obviously I've got something that is definitely different. Let me just grab a clean piece of cut and dry foam. That's the thinnest cut and dry foam I've ever cut. It doesn't matter if you use a little bit of a makeup sponge, that's absolutely fine. So what I'm going to do, where is that circle? This circle, which is lovely, which we're going to use as well. Just want, oh, yes, you two can faff, but obviously the card's going to have sort of shrunk a little bit. I just want to go back to that seedless preserves and pick up that seedless preserves and just add a little bit more depth of that seedless preserves just there at the edge. That's better. I know, I'm a pain. Just to give it a little bit more depth. Let me just spritz that with water. Don't want it too perfect. And honestly, this is how much I faff every single time. So I can add my leaves here. So so let's take this. So we'll take these leaves and we'll add these to here. And the thing is, I wasn't going to cut any black mats, but I just may have to now. I know you don't mind waiting while I cut black mats. So at the moment, I'm just sort of building compositions. And with these cards, I'm going to have dimension, like so. I'm going to have lots of dimension. Let me just add these. I've also got the second generation print. So let's cut it out anyway. Let me put the lid on the adhesive. So I don't know whether I'm using the second generation, but let's see. It seems a shame not to use that. And I am going to add some little pops of black as well to some of them. There we go. The second generations are just as beautiful as the first generation. Personally, they work just as well. There we go. I keep just chucking bits on the floor. So let's bring this one in. I've now got 5 things on the go. So I'm now going to add this just to the background. But before I do that, where's my... Oh, good grief, let's add something else. Let's grab this. So this is me like sort of having a little, you know, sort of play session really. So I'm going to take my 30 days, because I love this little bit of text, and we used that this morning in class. So I'm going to use it. I can't put it back somehow. I don't know what's up with me. Oh, crikey. Yes, you too can faff. So I'm going to use my 30 days. Let's just move this out of the way at the moment. I'm going to use my 30 days, and I'm going to use, I haven't dried this. You've seen that I've not dried this with my heat tool. I really should dry it with my heat tool. And I'm just going to use an anti-static bag, just where the colour is. Just add a little bit of that anti-static bag. Another piece of copy of paper and my Versamark ink. Use my Versamark ink. I'm just going to add a little bit of stamping there. Now, you're not stressing about it being perfect because it's a background. A little bit of stamping on the opposite corner. It's no wonder I spend forever cleaning up. I mean, it's ridiculous. Copy of paper and just sling it across the other end of the room. And let's add a little bit of that embossing. Try not to tip it up, which is what I normally do. And the camera goes mental because I'm trying to hold the copy of paper and it's right against the camera. So I'm going to grab that heat tool So let's grab that heat tool. Now during this session you are going to hear me sort of step down and cut cards and things. That's me. I do the whole process in real time. So I'm just going to add white embossing, which I think will really add to it. Now this is one of them videos where if you've got a day where you're feeling a bit flat, the weather's not good, you can just sit down, play along with me and just enjoy the process. Really, I need to lift that up so I'm not hitting the forgotten what it's called now, non-stick craft sheet, so that it's not hitting the non-stick craft sheet as well, and it just turns a little bit better. There we go, we're getting that bright white now. Let's move down to here. So just getting some of that bright white. Not that I can see this one, but there you go. And the bright white just gives a little bit touch of white to the background. That all gone now? Yeah, there we go. So it just gives me, where's my background gone now? Just gives me a little pop of colour, just the white to echo the white in this background. So shall we adhere these two together? Because again, I'm showing you a different background and a different way to use each of your stamps. And you can mix these quite easily with all the florals that I've got. In fact, they work beautifully with the florals. Absolutely beautifully. In fact, we might add a floral to one of them. Actually, I might add a floral to one of them, to be fair. You never know, I might add it to that one. Just beautiful. Right, so which one am I going to add that to? You can see just as we are here, and then if I get what floral do I want? Bear with me. Let me see what floral. Let's have a look at the florals. So I've got the hexapetalistic. I think this might be on offer on All and Create's website. Let's just have a look. If I add that with the leaf, nice. So I'm using my hexapetalistic stamp set 978. So sometimes you'll see me come along on YouTube, and that one hasn't been spritzed yet, so we'll get another acrylic block. You'll see me come on YouTube and I'll do short videos. You'll see me come on YouTube and I'll do snippets. You will also see me come on YouTube and I'll do really long sessions where we create together. There we go. I do not want that. What do I want? Tracy can't see anything, nor a black ink. Can't see a thing. Where's my black ink gone? I know it'll be under somewhere. Somewhere I'm not looking. That's Twilight. Okay, who's had my VersaFine Claire ink pad? This is what you see, what happens when, there it is, when you've got so many stamps that you just don't function. There we go. So let's take the hexapetalistic flower. And you can see I've not stuck anything down. And I want to have some of these longer sessions as well sometimes, because I want to show you how all the stamps mix together and why I design. And to be honest, if it wasn't for you and your support, I wouldn't be doing the job that I thoroughly enjoy. Look at that for just a beautiful floral. Nobody knows where I've put the hexapetalistic stamp. What did I just do? Hexapetalistic, there you are. Do you like how I keep saying the name to myself? So let's grab a little bit. Let's use the acrylic block as my paint palette, and let's use some of the colours we've used in the background. So we've got the mustard seed. Let's use a little bit of the spiced marmalade. Let's just do those first. I think this is the brush I used with all the white on, wasn't it? Let's pick up a little bit of the spit it out mustard seed, and like I would with the pen, I'm just adding the mustard seed. Just a lot of the time I go dark and then add the light colours, but I've started off with the yellow here because I think the reason is I'm being very aware that if I want to add touches of those purple, I really need to be careful. So I've not watered this. I'm literally picking up the neat colour. So I've not added any water yet. I've literally picked up that neat colour. It's all neat colour. So no colour has had it blended. So now I'm just rinsing that brush. So let's grab some more water. But this time I'm going to add a touch of water, a very light touch of water. Sometimes we can add too much water and that's the problem. So I'm just going to go in with the orange just to give it some oomph and to give it some depth. Again, nothing's blended. I'm just picking that orange up. So nothing at all is blended. Now, to be honest, I'm no colourist. I just work with what works for me. I'm also aware not everybody can afford all the expensive pencils and you might only have ink pads. So this time around, I'm showing you how I colour with the ink pads. We can't all afford all the sort of colouring mediums. So I'm just adding a little bit of this orange. And like I would with pencils, I will blend them. Let's just add a little bit of orange here. And you can see I've not blended anything. Now what I'm going to do is take some water. Let's just blend this. Let's clean that. So I'm cleaning the brush. What you would do is you would make sure that you've got several brushes on the go. And I'm then going to go back to the mustard seed. Now you can see I've watered that down. And what I'm going to do is blend the colours and drag out the yellow with the orange and just blend the colours. Now there's not enough orange on there yet, but I'm just blending some of that colour Now, you're not going to get depth of colour with one quick wash of the paintbrush. It's going to take more work than that. But if you like it quite pared back, these are some nice simple methods. What I'm going to do is make sure I get some of that neat spiced marmalade, and by working on my my acrylic block, you see I need to dry that brush off, so I'm drying the brush off, and by working on the acrylic block, I mean, I could add this to another card and create a background, but I'm not making a mess on my non-stick craft sheet. So I've dried my brush quite a bit, and I'm just going to add a little bit of that darker colour. Now, obviously, with the Distress Oxide, the minute I'm adding the bits of moisture, they're going to oxidise. So it gives you a different look, because that colour is going to oxidise when you add that moisture. So it looks different than any of your pencils would for a start. You could also just create a random background and just stamp the floral onto there. So I'm sort of picking this up now, actually dry. I've not used a soaking wet paintbrush. I'm sort of picking up the neat colour and just adding some of that neat colour. And then I can pick up the water that is tinted, and I can just blend out some of the lines, leave some of that white, because it works quite nicely. I can just blend out that colour. Now I'm going to clean my non-stick craft sheet. I'm going to clean my brush. Just clean that brush, which is not clean at all. It's definitely got lots of that yellow in. So just make sure that is completely clean. And processes just take time. It just takes time to do everything. And I'm aware that a lot of people just want short videos, but I like to sort of mix it up a little bit. Let me just take some of that moisture out of the brush, and I'm going to add a little bit of this Seedless Preserves just to the flower, just to give it some oomph. Now what I'm doing is I'm using almost a sort of a neat Seedless Preserves. I'm using it sort of neat. I'm not sort of merging it with the yellows and oranges. I'm sort of using it neat. I'm sort of dabbing that on there just to give it, the purple gives it a little bit of shading and gives it a little bit of that oomph. And in real life, the Seedless Preserves really does give it a little bit of oomph, a little bit of power. So I often spend time colouring. I'm not the best colourist, but I do like to still have, you know, a reasonably good result. But what I'm trying to do is, I've got a lovely friend, Catherine, and she mentions how very difficult she finds that, you know, sometimes the colouring. And I always think that if you use simple methods and you show somebody how to do things simply, you can show how they work. But what you need to show is that it isn't a 5-minute job. Now, what I'm doing is, my brush is feathering out a bit, and I'm using very dry ink. What I mean by that is I've got no moisture on there at all. I'm picking this Seedless Preserves up almost dry, and I'm scratching that colour on there with a bit of my brush. Now, you can see this takes no talent at all. And what I'm trying to show is, for my lovely friend Catherine, is that there's nothing professional about this at all. It's just mixing the colours and adding them in the correct way, just to give a little bit of depth. So I've now got a really dry piece of ink. Let's just move that up here. So I'm going to then just rinse my brush again, because I've got loads of colour on there. Let me just rinse that. So I'm just going to rinse that again. Rinse again. And I always think sometimes the problem is we add too much water. So let's take, I've got loads of colour on here, but I know it's a waste. I could just spritz that and add it to another background. But to be honest, if I create another background now, I'll literally be working on the floor. So if I take the spiced marmalade, so for those of you that have got no pencils, so I'm just using my ink pads. So I'm going to take that spiced marmalade and I'm going to dab a little bit more of that colour in the spiced marmalade. And now there's nothing professional about this. I'm literally dabbing it on there. But what I'm doing is, because I'm not using too much water, I'm keeping the concentration of colour. And therefore I'm not using the water, therefore I'm not blending the orange and the purples together to create mud. I'm still keeping some vibrancy of the colour. So my brush is almost dry. Just to add a little bit more of intensity of colour. And I'm a great believer that, you know, if you want sort of nice layers of colour, you've got to take the time to add layers of colour. It doesn't happen in 5 minutes. And you can be quite random with this, just to give it a little bit more. Just so you can see, I'm just adding a little bit more vibrancy of that colour. So I've got the orange on there now. So let's just clean the brush on my acrylic block, because it saves you keep wiping your non-stick craft sheet. I always have a piece of kitchen roll on the side. And what I'm going to do now is go back to my mustard seed. Little tiny bit of water. I'll pick this up with the water that's already on the brush. And I'm just going to dab a few. And what this is doing is just adding another layer of that colour, just to give a little bit more oomph to the layers of colour. And I've not sort of blended them, I'm sort of layering that colour. And I think apart from a touch of purple now, I'm quite happy with that. So let's give this a clean again. And the reason I'm cleaning the yellow is you don't want to then pick up the purple and create brown. So then I'm going to use the Dusty Concord. And you can see, let's add the Dusty Concord. There you go. It's staying its true colour. Use a piece of kitchen roll and wipe off some of that moisture. And just pick up and coat your brush with that neat colour. And then go back in with that neat colour. Now your card has got some moisture in there. So it can still move a little bit. But I'm using a fine brush. And I'm just going to just dab. Your Inktense pencils work beautifully, but if you haven't got pencils and you've only got ink pads, then this shows you how you can layer your colour, even unexpected colours, and just add a little bit. And it's how you layer those colours that makes the difference. Sometimes you can break those rules. go. And I think I'm quite happy with that. Now what I could do, because they're oxides, I could spritz with water and just allow it to do its thing and rest on there. Now if you wanted to create that as a card, you could literally leave that just to wick out a little bit, but hasn't that got a nice richness of colour? My kitchen roll is manky. I think I'll treat myself to a dry piece, seeing as I've used that same piece all morning. And then I'm just going to blot lightly, very lightly, because I don't want to pick up too much of that colour. Now, you would never in a million years try to do what I'm doing now. I'm using a Pink Frog 300 GSM card, which takes the moisture beautifully. But really, you're asking for trouble when you're trying to cut an image out of wet card. Of course, I'm going to ask for that trouble, but you should really wait until your card is completely dry. So I'm just going to cut around there, and I'm going to be more cautious in cutting out, mainly because I've broke down those fibres with that moisture, with that water, with my brush. And now what I'm saying is, oh, I'm going to cut you out now, even though you're all floppy and wet, I'm going to try and cut you out. So please make sure you dry it. What I can do is give it a dry with my heat tool. I'm going to dry it with my heat tool just to give it some more stability. Obviously, we're going to add some touches of white to that. But you know, I'm really pleased with that, colouring with Distress Oxides, because I always pull out my pencils or my pens, and then it dawned on me the other day that you might not have the pens and the pencils. So I've just dried that, which my card isn't as sort of mushy now. It's got a little bit more stability because I've dried that moisture. Make sure I don't cut the end of the flower off. And I'm aware it's not interesting watching somebody cut out, but sometimes I do like to do things from start to finish, just so that you can see every process. And also, even yesterday, I had a lady, a beginner, who'd never crafted before, was asking me a few questions, and that's why sometimes you have to repeat things and just go through the processes. Now this, with cutting the white border, it really is popping. Obviously, you will see that definitely more in real life. But I want everybody to feel that it's achievable. That's the whole point. There's no point designing products if you can't achieve some kind of, you know, project that you're happy with as well. So that's why I like to break it down in simple steps, simple formats, simple ideas. Sometimes not the way that maybe, you know, professionals who have been trained, you know, maybe not in that way, but in a way that works for me and I can explain easily to you. And also in a way where I've had failings and I like to show you what works for me, because I know what's failed for me, and I've seen maybe a professional do it a certain way, but it's not worked. I can't get it to work the same way. So it's always good if you can find a way that works for you. It might not be the way we're supposed to do it, but as long as it works, it doesn't matter. So let's just be aware we don't want to break the stem off, do we, Tracy? There we go. Now, as it's bent all over the place, just bend that back in place. Now, I'm rather pleased with that flower and how it's cut out. I think it's just gorgeous, just beautiful. It's going to go like that. Yeah, I think that's just beautiful. So what I'm going to do is grab my gel pen. And again, with a gel pen, there's no point going onto a wet surface. because it's not going to work. So you could give your image a little bit of a dry. I'll hope I can get away with it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just adding some dots to the white, to the area here, just so, because that makes it pop a little bit more. And again, add layers of that white. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add little sort of touch of white. Now, what I'm showing you here is when I add a touch of white here, because this is moisture, isn't it? It reacts with the Distress Oxides. So what I'm going to do, just to make it pop a bit more, I'm grabbing some white pen, some white paint. Let me just grab. I'm going to grab some white paint. Now you could use the edge of a pointy tool. You know the piercing tools, you can use that. Let's do this on the non-stick craft sheet, on the acrylic block. So you could use, I won't use anything because the paint won't come out. Now what I'm using is a Pergamano tool. But you could use the edge of a fine paintbrush, a little Sharpie tool. And I'm just going to add a little bit more because the paint is a little bit thicker. And I'm just going to add a little sort of touch of the white paint just to give my floral a little bit of a shine. Now, nobody in the right mind needs that much white paint. Why I've put so much white paint down, I'll never know. What I could also have used is my bleed proof paint that I've got. So it should, oh, I've missed one. So I'm just sort of adding this white. Now let's just clean that up. Can you see? Just makes it pop a little bit more. Just gives it a bit of life. And you can use your gel pen and you can sort of just add a suggestion of some dots as if it's pollen, just to give a little bit more life as well. Just make it, and I'm really pleased with that floral. Absolutely love it. So we've got the second generation leaf. So let's just give this a little bit of life and scrunch it up a bit because it's too perfect. That's it. And then I hope you end up in as much mess as me. I'm then going to add that just to here, like so. I need some adhesive to the stem, just to add this adhesive to the stem. And then some pin flare to the floral. And you can layer that pin flare one on top of the other if you wish. Add that there. Now I need to just grab that adhesive so what I'm doing is I'm just pressing this down here. Oh, I love that flower. I absolutely love that flower. So I'm just pressing that down. I adore that flower. Right. Again, you can get the hexapetalistic. I think it might be on offer on All Create website. My affiliate link will take you to the shop. But look, let me show you the flower. I just love it. Absolutely love it. That purple really, really gives it depth. Now, if you're not happy with how white that is, I've got that bleed proof again. So I can pick a little bit of the bleed proof, dip my thingy into the bleed proof, and it's a little bit whiter. I'm just going to add, so that if the oxide soaks up into the paint, it won't this, because this is bleed proof. So I'm just adding a little bit. And what I'm going to do is just add some little sort of dots of white, just to give a little bit of life. And I could spend ages. Let's stop faffing, Tracy. Move that away. And then I'm going to add some Posca pen. You do realise I've got to do backings for all these, because I didn't plan on making this many cards. So just so that's 4 by 6. So let me just show you. We haven't finished, but we've got this one. We've got this one. We have this one, and we've added no sentiments yet. I'm not going to finish these ones, but I'll show you what we've got. I can create them into cards, but you can create them into cards however you wish, because I just wanted to show you how you could create extra backgrounds and add elements to them. So I just want to finish a few of the cards, or else we're just going to end up in a right mess. So I need to cut some black mats. So bear with me. So I'm now kneeling on the floor to cut a black mat, which I wasn't going to do. And 4, so it's 4 1/4. 4 1/4. So I'm just down on the floor. 4 1/4. 4 1/4. 6 1/4. 6 1/4. 6 1/4. Right. So I've got my black mats, which I didn't intend to do, but there you go. So I was just going to literally have a play, but I'm going to add this to a black mat like so, because it really does make it pop. So let's add that to there, and let's just bring this down. Oh, I'm terrible. That's it. Stop faffing. So all the bits I've made from leftovers, going to add that to a black mat that I can't pick up now. There we go. Just remove that bit of glue. These black pieces of card that I've got, it's only thin card. I don't usually use it. I use thick card. But I'd only got this left in the black, but that's fine. We work with it. So we've got our black mat, and then I'm going to add that to a 300 GSM white card, and this is 5 by 7. So I'm going to add this just to here. Let me just bear with me. So I'm just going to add some adhesive. And I'm just moving away from the camera because sometimes it makes the focus go a little bit funny. So the black card I've got is very thin. You can use it for, it's ideal, you know, when you're creating books and things like that. but I'm just adding it to a piece of white card to give stability. And then I'm going to add this to my card blank. So that it's thin black, it's paper really. And I've just added it to a thicker piece of card just to give it some stability. Then I'm going to add that to a 5 by 7 inch card blank, like so. That floral just makes me happy. So I'm just pressing that down, all in the middle as well, just so that we get good contact. We haven't added a sentiment or a little bird yet, but doesn't that look lovely? I absolutely adore that. We haven't finished. And what I'm going to do is, let's add this to a black mat. Let's see if we can get this on straight. Add this to a black mat. This is just thin paper. My black card is downstairs. So I like to use a nice thick black card. So let's see if I can get this on a little bit better. I've never known anybody faff. Right, so that's on there. Wonderful. That's a black mat. I've actually got a card blank for that one. So we can add that to a white card blank. Again, we haven't finished because we want to add some more black to the foreground here. So just add that to the white card. It makes such a difference when you mat and layer and add to a card. I'm probably going to have to cut another card blank out. I will check my drawer just to see if I've got one. I do like to show you some cards finished. It's just me. Feel like I've finished something. Add that there. And then look at, this is what we've got so far. These two. Just adore them. And I've been on 1 hour and 37 minutes. And you know what? It feels like 5 minutes. I've enjoyed myself and it just feels like 5 minutes. And I haven't finished. And that's what creating's supposed to be about. So I'm going to add this to this rubbishy card. That isn't card, it's paper, but I don't waste anything. Just tweak that a little bit. There we go. Let me just see. See how there's other bits I want to add to these. So let's see if we've got a card blank. I might even have one here, which would be a miracle if I did. This might be 5 by 7. Let's test it against the others. Oh, it is. It's 5 by 7. That's with white card, 300 GSM. Just adding the adhesive. Make sure you add some adhesive to the middle. Just add. There's just something about when it's added to that card, it just looks fantastic. So this is what we've got so far. We've created this, we've created this, and we've created this. Just adore them. Right, let me just place these all down. And now we're going to add some finishing touches. So let's just grab our little bits of card. That is a little bit of card. So what I'm going to do now, I'm not even worrying about tidying up. I'm going to use the little bird on the scarecrow for one of them. And the little bird's fallen off in my packaging, and that's why I put them in packaging. So this is Scarecrow, stamp set 1009, again part of my new release. Now, acrylic blocks, forget it. There's not a chance. Look at the size of the acrylic block for this bird. Not a chance I can even find the A7 acrylic block. I'm not even going to try and find it. There's stuff everywhere. So I'm then going to add my little bird. Just allow that to soak into there. And drop it so you can just create a shadow. So what I'm going to do is cut my little bird out and just leave a little white border like so. Just cut that. I'm not sort of cutting the legs off precisely. I'm sort of going round. There we go. So let's bring in one card. So this one is going to have my little bird on here, because this black here echoes the black there and just brings it to the foreground. It is getting to the stage where Tracy can't find anything. I've got everything everywhere, because this is not, I was creating one card, but that's why inspiration takes you in different places. So we're going to add white splatters to all these afterwards, but this just gives the little bird on there. Now with this one, we're going to, I definitely need a bigger piece of card than that. I'm then going to take my scarecrow here that's got a little mouse, his little love heart as well. I'll take our scarecrow and we're going to stamp that in our black ink and just add ink to the side of my acrylic block like I normally do. Let's just give that a little bit of a wipe and then stamp our scarecrow. And even when I've been on over an hour, I'm still not rushing. I'm still making sure that my cards are finished properly. Cleaning my hands because, trust me, they're disgusting. So I've got my scarecrow. Now I don't want the grass at the bottom, so I'm just going to cut the scarecrow out. You might not even see one of his hands. If you know you're not going to see his hand, then you don't have to cut that out precisely. But I'm going to cut it out reasonably well because I don't really know quite yet where the placement's going. So I sort of go in and out where his scraggy little bits are. You don't have to cut the mouse out if you don't wish, but I am. So again, I'm just leaving a white border and I'll just sort of go in and out just so it appears that he's got sort of a straw scraggy hat. Now, a scarecrow. A scarecrow can be used all year round because it can be in with your foliage. It can be in with your flowers. It doesn't have to be used at one time of the year. Not at all. So just cut that out. And I like to cut some of his little long strawy like fingers with bits of straw dangling down because it just makes me happy. And then I'm just going to sort of go up, down, down, up. I don't know the difference between me down and up. And I'm just going to go just so that you've got this scraggy piece of clothes that's, you know, tatty and... So I'm just going up and down just to give... There we go. So I've now got my little scarecrow. So he is going to be added to this one. And I want to tuck him behind, sort of, so it can be part. That's perfect. He almost doesn't even need any adhesive. He fits in there nicely. So I'll add a little bit of adhesive to his head and his body. But I just want to tuck him in there. I can still sort of move him a little bit. There we go. Just tuck that in, just so that my scarecrow is tucked in with the leaves. Just so you can see that. And what that does is brings this black back, this black into the scarecrow, that's black into the foreground. So this is what we've got now. And we just need some words. Just adore these. And with this one, I'm just going to add a little bit of text because you can keep them more pared back if you wish. Right, so let's have a look at the words. Have we got anything in the ephemera? Probably, they're probably a green, aren't they? Oh, hang on a minute. Now, what you would normally do is you wouldn't come on here like I'm doing. You would sort of search it out first. But I've got thank you, I've got happy, just for you. So again, this one, this is my ephemera, #36, Les Sentiments. And I'll just drop it. I can just add just for you on there like that, and it coordinates beautifully. So let's add that. So I just want a bit of adhesive just here. Just on that edge there. Now I'm going to add, where's my scissors? I always like to use my scissors if I'm trying to just hold something down. It will grab hold. It's just waiting a few moments for that to grab hold. There we go. So we've got that just for you, which echoes the purple in there and the purple in the leaf. I just adore that. So then what else have we got? You see here, I've got unique. What have you got? Timeless. Plant blossom. Memories. Bird. Unique is quite apt. I've also got little hearts in the purple that you could also add to your project as well. There's just so many words. What one have I got? I've got unique. That's the journey. Just for you. I think I'm going to go for unique. So we'll go for unique on this one. And again, we'll just add a little bit of adhesive on there. Just hold that down. My fingernails really aren't the ideal thing. I like to use my scissors because it just keeps that in place. And then I just need to bring your hand out. There we go. There we go. And what you can see is there's a little mouse there. He's holding the word unique. Just so happy with this. And then what are we going to do with that one? What about just for you? So for this one, I'm going to add the word just for you. So I'll just add a little bit of adhesive. Just on there. Again, take my scissors. Just so I can add just for you. There we go. And we'll have a look at all these cards, but we'll place all these back first. There's so many. There's turquoises, there's greens, there's purples, there's blues, there's hearts, wish, winter. I'm going to show you how eventually to do the scarecrow in like a winter thing. There's so many things on my mind, I just haven't got enough hours in the day. Right, that's it. Let's just move them away. Put the adhesive lid on. And then what I'm going to do is just add some more Posca to the focal imagery. Move the card around just so that you hit, that's better, different areas, and you get a little bit of splatters on your wording. I'll bring all the cards in for you to see them close up before we finish the video. There we go. Move that one, and let's bring the other one and just add a few more splatters. Let's put that away, clean one's hand, and we'll now go through what we've created, and hopefully you've achieved some information. So this is the first card, which I'll probably put as the photograph on the video, which is literally my cut out piece of die cut piece that I wasn't going to use, and I've used it anyway with bits of colour just blended on there. But I adore the floral, just love that. What you would do is you just add a little bit of white to the bird. Just add a little bit of white to the bird, just so you can see that. But I absolutely love that. So you've done that card. You've created this card with our wonderful scarecrow. Just love him. And then you've also created a leaf card just to say just for you to somebody. Just adore that. And then you've got two other backgrounds that you can create cards with in your own time. So I hope you've enjoyed that session. I'd just like to say thank you all for your support. I'm only here because of you, doing what I enjoy, so thank you very much. Love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.